justice for all.
First item on the agenda will be the minutes of September 15th. What is the wish of the board? Moved by GG, seconded by? Second. Jeff. Any changes or amendments to the minutes? Seeing none? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Next item on the agenda is going to be public comments. Before we start with public comments, I want to just set some ground rules. So, I understand everybody here is probably here to comment on the same thing. I want to make sure that we all are respectful of everybody in the room. There are differing opinions. Everybody's opinion matters. They are all valid. I don't want to get into a situation where we have a debate going on amongst everybody here. So, I'm asking everybody to please keep your comments to 2 minutes. When you stand up to make your comments, please let us know who you are and at least a road that you live on in town. I don't want cheering, I don't want clapping. I think it just prevents people from being able to communicate equally from both opinions. So with that in mind, we will open up for public comments. If anybody has a comment they'd like to make, sir?
Let me first start off by saying that my daughter's worth more than 2 minutes of your time. 7 active cases in Deerfield, 0 at DCS. There were 0 3 weeks ago. Oh, Greg Whitmore, 164 North Road. There was 164 North Road, Greg Whitmore. There were 0 cases at DCS 3 weeks ago when you made the decision to mask our children. And it's funny how everybody, all the schools in the district switched to county data. They all played the same trick, switching to county, even though you had a mask matrix in place, correct? So the recommendation is that masks be used when community transmission is substantial. Let's see, Rockingham County, there are currently 0.002% of people in Rockingham County are currently infected. Is that substantial? Doesn't sound it. Deerfield accounts for 0.01% of those infections. Does that sound substantial? Not even close. The values chosen to represent substantial spread are completely arbitrary. They were chosen by an unknown entity. Well, they pulled out of a hat. Do these numbers actually mean anything? Arbitrary values, right? So what has changed since last year? Let's see. We found out that sanitizing surfaces, useless. Plexiglass barriers make things worse because they reduce air circulation. The 6-foot rule, also completely arbitrary, not even based in science. They don't even know where that value came from, and that's straight out of the CDC, right? Let's see, University of Waterloo study recently came out and said only 10% of respiratory droplets are stopped by a mask, 10%. And that's only droplets, which only come when you cough or sneeze. It stops virtually nothing, just breathing, right? So who are we kidding here? So why are we clinging to the masks? Why are we forcing them on children? Do you know why the rates of infection are so low or cases are so low in elementary school? Because the elementary school kids don't present with symptoms. They don't get sick. That's why if you look at the values throughout the SAU, the elementary levels are so much considerably lower than the middle schools and high schools. That's not a coincidence. So I am here because I'm concerned about the physical and emotional health of my daughter. The day her teacher told her that she had to revert to mask wearing, she came home in tears, hysterical in tears, because she knew what that meant. She suffered through this. This is all she's known in this school. She's in 1st grade. This has been her life. This is her introduction to public education, being masked. Wearing a mask makes her miserable, it affects her emotional health, and we of course know that emotional health is tied to physical health. So you are affecting her emotional and physical health by doing this. She comes home from school exhausted on days when she has to wear a mask, because mask exhaustion is a very real thing. I know I feel exhausted after wearing a mask the entire day. And don't tell me masks don't make people sick. I was sick with sinus infections for 7 months last year, directly attributable to the times when I had to wear a mask for my job. So it's a very real thing, to say the least. Wrapping it up, yes. All right, so the opposite argument is always the kids can bring the virus home and infect family members with compromised immune systems. Vaccines are widely available. If you want a vaccine, get a vaccine, absolutely. There's even boosters. Families who need the extra step of precautions can take those steps. Mask your kids, not mine. This is my child. I'm not co-parenting with you. You're not helping to raise my child. This is my decision and my wife's decision only. Thank you.
Not clapping. Not going there.
Public meeting, public, not Zach's meeting, public meeting.
Public comment. Ready to give you an opportunity to speak to us? Okay, we're gonna start clapping and we're gonna turn it into a circus. We're gonna adjourn the meeting, go home, we'll start again in 2 weeks. Okay? Does anybody else have a comment? Go ahead.
I'll go last. You can go.
Hello, my name is Judy Bush. I live at 43 Mount Delight Road, and I've been there 51 years. I came tonight, not because I was children in school, they've already been through this system. I came because I empathize with all of you. You're gonna be damned if you do and damned if you don't, you know that. And I have been there. I was on the board 14 years in the 80s and 90s, and we had conflict then. So you're in nothing but different place. And I just empathize with all of you that you're having to go through this. We had a 4-day school week for 10 years, and we built this school during my time of being on the board. And don't say it wasn't tumultuous, because it was. We had conflict after conflict after conflict. But for some reason, we were able to come to a place where we could talk with each other and listen to each other. And I'm hoping that that will happen in this community again. So thank you. I wish you all well, and I sympathize with each one of you.
Any additional comments?
Michelle DeRose, Mount Delight Road. I have 3 points to make tonight, so I will speak quickly to try to get to all of them. First of all, I would like to direct the school board members, I do not agree with the mask mandate. I do not feel that 14 positive people in the community was cause for such a drastic measure. 2 weeks prior, you developed a matrix, and it was emailed to every parent. And within a minute, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, it was completely forgotten about. What was the point of making the matrix if you had no intention of following it? As a board, I feel you need to work together on guidelines based on in-school cases or in-community cases, because you all told us you were going to do it on in-school cases, and that obviously was not the case. Sorry. I think I'm more upset essentially over the lack of a better word you guys, I felt, went rogue at the last meeting than on the actual decision itself. You're really just trying to protect our children, and I understand that, but guidelines were made and you didn't go by them. And in all honesty, no one in this entire room is completely qualified to make such a delicate decision. But at the end of the day, each parent knows their child the best, and they should be the ones responsible on whether their child should be wearing a mask 7 to 8 hours a day. So I would encourage you to go back to masks optional and leave the choice up to parents. Second, and quickly, goes to the DCS parents in the community. The 5 people sitting in these chairs are volunteers from our community. I'm not 100% sure of the timeline, but I am sure that all of them volunteered long before a pandemic hit, and now they are navigating through uncharted waters. They are making impossible decisions, and believe it or not, do have the students' best interests in mind. They do not deserve to be personally attacked on social media. Their personal property does not deserve to be destroyed, and their children do not deserve or warrant being harassed in school by other children over decisions made in these meetings. These children of the members are exactly that. They are children. You may be angry over the decisions being made, but we live in a democracy, and these 5 people were voted into their volunteer positions. Everyone has a choice to volunteer themselves or make your changes on election day. Last, but certainly not least, as parent 113, my comments are directed to Dale Transportation, if there's anyone here from there. I have done your job long enough. It is time for you to do what you are contracted to do. Get DCS and CHS students to and from school in a timely manner. You are a bus transportation company. Start acting like it. The parents of this town have carried you long enough. Do whatever you have to do to fulfill the contract. I am not asking for anything special. Just do your job. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Any other comments? Jeff, I believe there was one ahead of you, sir.
No.
Taking out.
Kimberly Black, 10 Meeting House Hill Road, graduating student from preschool at Mount Lake Daycare and DCS. It's been 2 weeks to flatten the curve for the last 80+ weeks now. I'm tired. I know you must be. In this time, we've isolated our grandparents, letting them die alone to serve the interests of community health. We've isolated our children from their childhood, their peers, and their education to serve the interests of community health. We've vilified our healthcare workers that were once our heroes, and we've dishonorably discharged our military veterans who signed up to defend our country and our freedoms in the interest of community health. One nation, under God, all divisible. How does any of this make a thriving, healthy community? I was going to send another email earlier today as many links to scientific studies with evidence to support my stance, which is that masking isn't without risk, and where there's risk, there must be choice. But I didn't. You can all go to the PubMed website and search yourself just the same as I did. You cite the CDC and the AEP and DHHS, which are all the same. But for every citation you can make to support your opinion, I can provide one that supports mine. There is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to healthcare or raising our children. There's no right or wrong, we're just different. You may choose to believe the risk of contracting COVID is greater than the health risk of short and long-term mask use. I don't. One study of the matter concluded the described mask, and I quote, the described mask-related changes in respiratory physiology can have an adverse effect on the wearer's blood gases, subclinically, and in some cases also clinically manifest, and therefore have a negative effect on the basis of all aerobic life, external and internal respiration, with an influence on a wide variety of organ systems and metabolic processes, with physical, psychological, and social consequences for the individual human being. There's a lot more to that study. It may be over there in your correspondence lists. I don't know. If it isn't, I'm happy to provide it to you. What I concur from that and the many other studies that I've found is that there isn't data or enough of that to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that wearing a mask is less harmful than COVID could be for our children, for my child. While some of you may feel they need evidence to support the potential harm, I need evidence that's proof that there does no harm. Neither is available, and prior to COVID, most of the studies on masking concluded there was little effectiveness to prevent viral spread due to particle size, but also due to improper use. And those studies were conducted in a medical field on surgical versus N95 masks. Professionals improperly wearing a mask during appointments or procedures, and yet you feel our students can do better with a mask they just picked up off the floor of their parents' car. Further studies have been done to advise against using masks during aerobic workouts. My child is either aerobic or sleeping. But you provide no room to discuss him as an individual, declining my middle ground request for him to wear a face shield. He's part of the community you claim you're protecting too, but does he not matter because my opinion doesn't align with yours? And you get the vote? You've backed me into a corner to choose between sacrificing my child's health and participating in his classroom he was so excited to be a part of, to protect his health and well-being like I'm supposed to as his parent. I hope you do what's right today and support parental rights for us to decide what is in the best interest of our child. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, what do you want to add?
in town since 1985. We raised our 4 children here. We have 7 grandchildren, 5 of which that are in the community. I didn't really come here to speak, but I felt a perfect opportunity to point something out that I think is really important. And Michelle, I disagree with your opinion. However, your right to express it. This country is democracy. The fact that I'm hearing of people having garbage thrown in their driveway because you don't like what they voted for. When did it become okay to do that? The country was founded on people of varying opinions getting together and expressing them. That's what democracy is about. It really saddens me to see the divisiveness and the anger and the willingness for people to be cruel and nasty to one another. You can have the right, we all have the right to disagree, but we need to be respectful to each other. I know you folks on the board, one of them's my son, one of them's a good friend, another's a good friend and a neighbor. There is no need for people to be so nasty about all this. And again, Michelle, I respect your right to have your opinion. And although I disagree with you, I would really like to see the whole country get back to a time when people can disagree and still shake hands and walk away and respect the other person. Thank you.
Anybody else have a comment first before we move on?
Hi, I'm Bobby Ann Dosty. I live at Brown Road. I'm not sure if any of you read the sign out there, but it says Deerfield Community School. I 100% agree with Jeff's dad. I've had death threats. I have had people key my car recently because I have an opposing opinion. Our very name of our public school instills hope and compassion for community. I'm not here to argue about the pandemic. I'm here to stand up for the constitutional rights of my children, as well as the community as a whole. My family's medical history is none of the board's business, but sharing it might be the only way to help them see that masks and all the mandates are not one size fits all, similar to what Kim was saying. Every neighbor who's visited my home knows I'm a little bit of a clean freak. My kids kind of take after me in that right. But the being clean doesn't stop the germs from growing inside our masks, and they're being forced to wear them just to get their education. On June 17th, Fox News reported that a lab found 11 dangerous pathogens on a child's mask worn less than 3 hours, including pneumonia. My daughter has extremely sensitive skin. She's broken out with severe face rashes and wounds due to being forced to wearing a mask all day at school. These breakouts are painful and it's not acceptable. My son was diagnosed with anxiety and acute Tourette's at a very young age. He's legally blind in his left eye and has to wear contact as well as glasses just to learn, read, and write. The masks fog up his glasses so much that it's hard for him to learn, in turn, causing him to breathe heavier and have minor panic attacks throughout the day. When he's forced to wear a mask that impedes on his breathing, his nervous tics flare up so bad that he can't control his head. So when he goes to soccer at night, he has nervous breakdowns that I can't console him through. Both my children have suffered more from these mandates than they ever will from COVID. I'm here to advocate for them and for many other families in our community that feel the same way. Our town hall does not mandate masks. Our public schools should not either. Thank you.
Any other comments?
No, go here, that's fine, I'm only going to share with you. So, Cooper North Road, I've come to a lot of these meetings, and a lot of the times arguments kind of fall into certain categories, right? And the biggest category I tend to hear is, I've done my research, I've looked into this, and here's why I think this is wrong. What's happening though is we're replacing confirmation bias and echo chambers with research. You literally have a government organization uniquely qualified to make these determinations and offer us guidance. With tens of thousands of employees and millions of dollars in annual budgets, And we're saying, yeah, that's great, but I've got Facebook and Google. Now, I think we should stay informed. I think we should read about what's going on. But when you search for a certain term, or when you see something that's sourced inaccurately, you take it as gospel and then use that as a reason why something shouldn't occur, we're doing ourselves a disservice. We hear that we're not co-parenting with the government. My son has a hoodie that zips up and makes him look like Hitler. Apparently, that's a distraction at school when you're in second grade. So I'm co-parenting with the school when they said not to wear it anymore, and I agree. My kid likes his screen time, but I'm pretty sure I can't send him to school with a tablet because he would rather do that than pay attention to class. We co-parent with the government every day. We're here in a school board that we elected members for. This is a part of what we do. There's a back and forth as to what we can and should do at school, and what the rules are. We have to fall somewhere in between. As far as kids being harmed by masks, growing up, I was told that I could be anything I wanted to be or do anything I wanted to do. Now the generation is being told they can do anything that they want to do and be anything they want to be, as long as there's not cloth on their face. We're taking away a generation of doctors, nurses, fighter pilots, carpenters, who knows what other careers are being taken away from the kids because there's an unjust request to put a piece of cloth over their face. Someone said the cases are going down. Great! We shouldn't be mad about that and use that as an argument to take away a mitigation factor that apparently works. Prior to the mask mandate, we had 17 cases in Deerfield, and someone said that the kids in Deerfield don't get sick, they don't show symptoms. But they can take that home, hence the cases potentially going up. From there, we put a mask mandate in place, cases drop. And if you look at the SAU website where it has the number of cases in a school, Deerfield has been low across the board. Part of that is because masks do work, and part of it is because we are in a small community. And we do need to look at the community data. And these aren't just arbitrary numbers that are being pulled up. These are, once again, a government organization that has done research that says that substantial transmission occurs when there's a certain amount per 100,000 people. And mathematically, we have hit that. We've had 7 cases. We're there right now. We're slightly over what it should be. The ultimate goal of the COVID request, or excuse me, the COVID mitigation policy, is to try to protect not only the kids, the students, and the community. We took away social distancing. It actually does work. Just because we say it doesn't, because it suits the narrative, doesn't mean it's accurate. Social distancing works. We're not doing it. Increased cleaning. Took it away. Vaccinations. While it is a possibility, most of the kids in the school are under 12. So I can see if the argument was, if you're over 12, the middle school section, make mask option. But for everyone under 12, I don't even know why we're having this discussion when literally the only mitigation option they have is a mask. And if anyone here has spent any time talking to the kids with this, it's the adults that struggle with the mask because we're not used to it. Kids adapt like that. My kid wears it every single day. He wore it when it was optional. And when he comes home, you know what he tells me? I don't like wearing the mask. Did you keep it on? Absolutely, because it's really not that difficult. It's no different than any other dress code. And when you take the same argument and use a different topic, you start to see holes in it, right? Number of cases are low. Shootings in Deerfield are really low. There's not one parent here that says that this shouldn't be a gun-free zone. Haven't heard of any overdoses in Deerfield. For some reason, it's still drug-free. Right? What we're doing is we're picking whatever the narrative is and running with it. And ultimately, what we're trying to decide on is what's the most safe thing to do for the children? It's to put a piece of cloth over their face.
Any other comments?
Was it me or were you kind of arguing?
Sir,
Yeah.
this isn't a back and forth between the
Oh, okay.
audience, it's citizens' comments directly to the board. Thanks, sir.
Craig, live at 5 Brown Road. On the third day of the current mandate, I had to pick up my daughter from volleyball at this very school. I got here a little early. My son asked if he could play on the playground while we waited. As we walked from the front of the building to the playground, we counted over 30 masks on the ground, just used all over the place. This was the third day. This wasn't 3-4 months in. Whatever happened to teaching our children to protect our planet as well? I was informed as well by my children that most of the kids wear their masks on their wrists while outside for recess. This means that most of the masks are actually touching the playground equipment, the sports balls, other kids, who knows what else. The children are then forced to put their masks back on as they re-enter the building, putting all those germs on their face. Not to mention the fact that they continually touch and adjust their mask throughout the day. This also contaminates their hands. Our kids and more than half of your staff do not wear the masks correctly, deeming them inoperative and useless. I have here a community petition requesting a special meeting to make masks optional for students as well as all the staff of this public school. It is signed by more than 100 Deerfield residents who believe in parental choice. And at this time, or whenever you guys accept it, I would like to have it signed by you guys and accepted.
Give that to me, sir. As far as signing it, sir, I need to have it reviewed, but
Sure.
I'll certainly have it reviewed.
There is 2 copies,
Okay.
just because one has the original signatures and one has the copies.
You have a copy for yourself, Vincent?
Yes.
All right, so I can have both of these?
Yeah, as long as we get one back.
After we have a chance to review it all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any additional comments? Oh, did you? I'm sorry. Yep, however you want to do it.
Are they allowed to?
I'd like to speak as a citizen this evening, and I apologize for writing, but when I'm nervous, I need something to look at. So I was glad to see other people had theirs written down too. I just wanted to share a quote to start. Above all, a city needs a soul if it has become a true home for human beings. You, the people, must give it this soul. That's by Pope John Paul II. And this next part is adaptation from a short writing in the book, Success is the Quality of a Journey by Jennifer James. And it says, we are, whether with reluctance or with commitment, a unit of this community. The community I live in is not an entity separate from my life. It is a representation of my life. I am the individual unit, the multiple, which is us. Sometimes we feel alienated from our culture as if it moves separately from the people who compose it. It cannot move without us. We shape its values and its quality each and every moment. How are our values shaping our community? Stop a moment and imagine all the people whom you identify as part of your community. We must decide what our contributions to their quality of life will be. The quality of our individual lives will be closely attuned to the quality of theirs. And then this part is directly for me. I've lived in Deerfield since 1987, 34 years. During this time, I've grown to love the community that embraced me and my family, and we have all worked at times over the years to participate in contributing to the community as so many others have done. That is what has always made Deerfield special. We saw each other as a community. We cared about the well-being of each other. When challenge, trial, tribulation, or tragedy struck, we all came together to see how we could support the afflicted, no matter who they were. In recent years, our culture at large has seemed to have lost this sense of compassionate collaboration. Yet for so long, it felt as if somehow Deerfield managed to have some kind of immunity against the self over community mentality that infected the many other places in which we operated. However, I'm deeply saddened that the identity politics which has ravaged our country has seeped in to divide our community. If we could get down to the bottom of what we all value right now, it would be that we all care and value the health and well-being of our children. We do not agree at this time how to keep them healthy and safe, and I do not know how we get there yet. But on our way, we have to hold on to the notion that we really all want the same thing. In reality, most humans do. We want and need to feel love, belonging, and acceptance. On our way, we can remember that the people we ardently disagree with are just that, people. I am challenging myself to do better. I am with humility challenging all of us to set an example for our kids and our country. I'm challenging myself to assume good intentions and to be curious and to ask questions. As Stephen Covey says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. While the rest of the country continues to be torn by polarized divides, we could be the little town that could, just like the little engine. We could get out from behind our keyboards and start talking with each other. What an example it would be for our kids if they saw us make space in our hearts for the very people who at times have behaviors, views, and opinions that frustrate us. I hope I have the courage to start creating safe spaces for expression now, and that people will consider being gentle with me as well. We could start tonight, or we could simply continue to become degraded by the status quo. Thank you.
Any other comments before we move on?
My name is Jay Dusty, and I live in Crown Road. In ELA class, we were learning how to write an essay. The example was that schools should get rid of uniforms. It said that uniforms were a distraction because kids were playing with them instead of paying attention to the teacher. It also said that they were so uncomfortable that kids couldn't stop touching them. As soon as my teacher said this, I thought of masks and how much this relates to them. They are so uncomfortable that kids continue to touch them, pulling them up and down. This spread germs way faster. Also, they are distracting not only to the kids, but to the teachers too. Teachers are more focused on telling kids to pull up their masks than focusing on the lesson. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Yvette. I have 2 daughters in the school system, and they actually asked me to come here to talk to you all. They are having a problem understanding their teachers, they are having a problem communicating, they're having a problem with social learning, which is a problem to me. My 2nd grader can't read, and she doesn't want to come to school. You're supposed to be building a community and a school where they want to come. You're supposed to be teaching them above all else. So why is this such a problem? Make it so it's not a mandate. Make it so everybody can make their own decision. You are telling my daughters that they do not have control over their body. You are forcing them to do something to their body that they don't want to do. It has taken us many years to get the rights as people, and many years not to have to do things that we don't want to do. And we are going back many centuries by forcing our children to do things that they don't want to do to their bodies and telling them that they don't have control. If they were adults, they would be sitting here causing a problem with this. But you're not asking the question, how do our children feel about this? You're not taking into consideration their opinions, their learning, or anything else. Above all else, that is your job. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Kurt Joel, Haynes Road. I have a very young daughter my youngest daughter, loved to go to school. Up in the morning before she had to be, dressed, hair done, teeth all excited, ready to go. Mask mandate came in, she cried for a day. Doesn't want to go to school at all. Gonna drag her out of bed in the morning practically. She resists, she doesn't want to go. She'll wait as long as she can. She hates school. Took somebody who loved school, and now she hates it. And I don't even know how much longer I'm gonna be able to get her up and out there on time. She'll probably be consistently late soon because she's getting worse and worse about it the longer this drags on. She cannot stand the masks, and she absolutely puts up a fight every morning now. And she used to get up and just love it. So, the mask mandate is doing a lot of damage.
Anybody else have any comments from the board? Sir?
Tim OJ, Mountain Road, Deerfield. It takes a lot to get me here. It takes a lot to get me to speak in front of a group of people. I feel masks are abusive. I think that so few people shouldn't be making the decision for so many. People need this school for many, many different reasons. My reasons can be different from many other people. I've received a lot of good stuff from the school, a lot of things that my children needed from the school, a lot of great people in the school. That's why I hold back so much from removing them from the school. We've received a lot of good stuff. We have a great support system within the school. You want to bring a community together, you give the community the choice. We wonder why the community is getting driven further apart, because you're forcing people to do something that they don't agree with. Their whole beings are completely against what you're trying to get us to go along with. And it's why can't we all come together and agree on this? We're not gonna. Anytime anybody's being forced into something that they completely disagree with, you're gonna drive it further apart. I agree, us as a community, we should not let stuff come in between us, but when you drive something, this is just so, it just seems so severe for the community that we live in to be doing this to the children. It's abuse. You're gonna make them sick, putting them in a mask, making them wear them. It's just, at the beginning of the year, it seemed like everybody was just fine with it, and then all of a sudden the mandate, it got way out of hand real quick. If we could just dial this back, let's deal with this as a community and not try to reach out everywhere to find out something that's gonna fit, our narrative, so we can continue on with this nonsense. We're acting like we all do this all the time. We don't, okay? If you're gonna force my child to be in a mask, I want you sleeping in yours and taking a shower in yours. If you're to the point where you think it's so bad that my kid needs to wear a mask, because if it's at that point, I'm just gonna remove them from the situation. We're not gonna send them in, if it's to a point that bad. Whether you're vaccinated, whether you're not vaccinated, you're going home, taking your mask off, spending time with your kids who are unvaccinated. We're all acting like we're doing what we're doing here tonight. We're not, nobody is. So let's stop pretending, give everybody a choice, and move on with it. I thought everything was going beautifully at the school at the beginning of the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Fred?
Hi, my name is Kathy Shigo. Been a Deerfield resident for 46 years, and like Judy Bush, I've seen a lot of changes in this school, and some of them good, wonderful. I mean, you can't take away from the goodness, but there's all a lot of bad decisions. I was one of the families that helped change the 4-day to 5-day, 5-day to 4-day, and because it was so bad, 4-day to 5-day. And our kids were not learning, and so it was really necessary to do that. And so I'm speaking for I don't have children in this school now, but I can hear the parents, and this is what we were saying for so many years. I know that every one of you are here because you love Deerfield, just like Judy said, love our children, want to do them well, and I talked to the principal, she was wonderful to talk to me in the beginning of the year, and I explained to her that this community is about people, and we believe in families, we believe in faith, and we believe in patriotic duties. If the mask is the first thing you're gonna do, I feel like you're being controlled by the teachers' unions, or maybe from the the superintendent from SAU 53. Those are the people that might be really giving you a lot of pressure for this, because if I'm not mistaken, our state is still, we can go into public places without a mask. It's the law. And you should consider this, that we have a right not to have to wear a mask if we don't want to, especially if you're vaccinated. I mean, that's nationwide. But all I'm asking you to do is to consider, because like I said, I'm sure you understand, but these parents are really concerned because their children are getting sicker emotionally and physically, and you don't want to be the cause of that. I know you don't.
You're here to educate. You're not here to be doctors or lawyers or even a Dr. Fauci type thing, you know, that's not your job. And I really want to say one more thing is that if masks are first, then you're gonna have critical race theory, and then you're gonna have drag queens. So like I said to the principal, we don't believe in that stuff here. I've never believed that. All the years I've been here, and we'll fight that. We'll fight that because our kids deserve better. We deserve to get educated with math, with science, with writing. I mean, some of these kids left here not even knowing how to read years ago because of the decisions school board members made, and I know that for a fact because I just know it. My kids' friends were one of them. So I'm just trying to explain to you that don't make the mistake. It's fairly early now, but give back the freedom that these children need to learn the things that you're there to teach them for. And I know you care about that, or you would be here week after week, month after month, trying to make that work for our children. And I just wanted to thank you for, listening to us, because we really need to get our expressions out to you, our feelings. And I believe these people here are doing a great job doing that without any kind of disturbances or being angry at you guys. We just want you to make the right decisions. That's all we're asking.
Thank you. Anybody else? Tina.
I just want to say that I appreciate what you guys are doing. Sorry. You have very little guidance, very little information to go on. Some of us appreciate the decisions that you've been tasked with making and that you are making. I just want to ask that you do whatever is necessary to keep the kids in school in person. If that means they have to wear masks, that's what that means. A lot of people who are asking you to take the mask mandate back were the very people during remote learning saying, send my kid back to school. I can't have my kid at home. My kid isn't doing well with remote learning. Now the kids are back in school and they're in person. And if we have to have a mask mandate to make that happen, people are still going to be unhappy. People are going to be unhappy no matter what. I'm just saying, my child is doing much better this year in person. He did what he had to do with remote learning. It did not go the best for him personally. And I know a lot of kids also struggle with it. If the goal is to have the kids in person, then whatever needs to be done to make that happen, I agree with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to make sure everybody has a chance to speak. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Please go ahead.
My name is Paula White, and I live on Hartford Brook Road. I have a grandson at this school, and I have a board member on this board. So I have a dog in this fight. I think one thing has not been said and overlooked, and I respect every parent's right to make decisions for their child. But this school board is responsible for every child in this school, for their education, their health, and their safety. They are responsible for the staff here. They're responsible for the teachers here. And I think that we are overlooking the fact, or it has not been said tonight, that as parents, your decision affects everybody. It affects my grandson. And so this school board is here to try to act on behalf of everyone who works and is in school in this building. So I don't think that, I have compassion for the children who are having health problems, wearing masks, for children who are having attention problems, wearing masks, but we have to think about the good of the whole. And that's what this school board has to do. And so I'm just asking every parent to take that into consideration and to think about the decision you make for your child. How does that affect everyone in this building? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public who would like to address the board? So I want to thank everybody for your comments. I appreciate if we were able to do this in a calm manner. I've watched a lot of school board meetings. I've been tuning into them all over the state and they've been streamed online. A lot of them have spiraled out of control, and it is something that I hoped our community was better than. So thank you very much to everybody for your comments. Thank you for keeping everything respectful. I, myself, the rest of the board will certainly appreciate that. We're going to close citizens' comments now. We're going to move on with the rest of our agenda and continue working on it. Citizen review. I'm going to table policies. Board is comfortable with that. We're already about an hour in the meeting, and so what's the word to do? We okay with that? Yep. Good. Any other agenda items we need to?
It probably can wait, it's not super pressing, but I would at least like to bring up the topic of board communication, and I can talk more about it when we get there, but I think it's way more informational.
Can't hear it. This is probably what our children are dealing with every day at school. My guess.
I can use my indoor voice, my big voice, but.
I'll get loud.
I'll get loud.
My question was about board communication, and I was just saying that if we have time in the agenda tonight, it could be a pretty short conversation, or it could just be an opener going into informational. I'll leave that up to, I don't know, anybody have any thoughts on that? So my request is to put it in immediate business for a few minutes, but if there's no time, then it can wait and be put into information.
Does the board want to add that as item H?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so. Okay. We do have one consent item. It is the invoicing for transportation. It is located in your packets. We have an invoice for $6,885 for Dale Transportation. That is the invoice for 4 buses at $344.25 a day for a total of 5 days. The board wish to approve that invoice. Certainly appears accurate based on the volume of buses.
That's just a clarifying question, and that clarifying question is, this is just based on number of buses and not on number of buses plus runs?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Have they pushed back on that, us paying them only for the number of buses, not the half runs they wanted?
I've heard nothing. All right.
I make a motion to approve the payment to Dale STA for the 4 buses which they're currently providing.
Second. We have a motion by Andy, we have a second by Nate. Any additional discussion? All in favor? Aye. For those that are here that are not aware, the board has been reviewing STA's invoicing in an effort to hopefully make sure that we are satisfied with what their invoicing is for. And it may be worthwhile, is the board comfortable just moving G up in between C and D, which would be just a transportation update while we're on STA? All right, so we have a second bus running for Concord High School now. So just in case anybody is unaware or needs access to that bus, please call Dale Transportation. I believe they have made an attempt to reach out to everybody they knew, so that they were aware of the needed a ride.
Yes.
And then we received additional information from Dale that hopefully we will have some additional elementary buses coming on soon. There is drivers in training right now, so the process is ongoing, but optimistically soon based upon the speed that everything can happen. So we're making headway with that in that regard. Anybody else have any transportation related stuff? All right. Let's see, correspondence. The board received a significant quantity of emails over the last 3 weeks. Fairly consistent with what we've been seeing for a while, both in support of a mask optional policy and then in support of masks being mandatory. I believe we've heard quite a bit from the public about it. I know some of the board members were replying to those emails as well. Anybody else have any commentary or discussion topics regarding that? Jeff?
Quick point, one of the recurring themes I've heard regarding the correspondence and the mask policy is that the board isn't listening to the public, so I thought it was interesting to go back for this school year and look at the number of emails I had received regarding masks in favor of or opposed to. And you know, I received 14 emails in favor of masking and 12 emails against. So I think that it's important to realize that, you know, some people, you know, people are opposed to masking, perhaps are more vocal about it. Some people less quiet, but you go through, you add up the emails, you know, it's pretty much split 50-50. I saw a petition that went around, both in favor and against, both petitions up over 100 signatures right there with each other. So I think it's important to note that this community is truly split 50-50, and it's not a question of the board not listening to one party or the other. It's listening to two very equal halves.
Andy, did you have something to add?
The only thing I'll add is that, as Jeff alluded to, we've only received, that I can recall, 28 total emails on the subject of masks, either for or against, from current families or guardians or of students who attend this school.
Anything else regarding correspondence? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify that I have seen the surge or the petition with a lot of signatures, and I'm hoping that we're all going to look at this one at some point. We'll
Yeah,
what happens next with this, but I haven't seen this one, so I would like to see that as well.
Yep. All right. Anything else? So let's go ahead, Patty, and discuss the mask wearing matrix.
So as you may or may not know, the interactive map has been down for 2 days, and I have not been able to update your matrix. However, right before the meeting, Andy looked and it was back up. So we had, I don't know, Zach and Andy, you were both looking and trying to get some numbers written down. Do you, one of you want to take the lead and update those numbers that I wasn't able to access?
Well, assuming that it didn't just fail again, the active cases in Deerfield are at 5 currently. I just want to refresh this. With 14, I think it was 14 new cases in the last
2 weeks.
2 weeks, which is typically the data we look at. So,
And we do know that we have 0 cases right now in the school, correct? Correct.
we have had one over the last 3 weeks. Right?
That sounds right.
Well, one student, one staff.
Does, correct. Okay, so additional discussion regarding the matrix.
I'd like to make a motion to make masks optional, starting the 11th of October.
All right, so we have a motion to return to optional masking starting November.
October 11th.
October 11th, I apologize.
Point of order.
Yep.
If a motion is passed, is this reconsidering the motion from last meeting? And if that's the case, then only somebody who voted in favor of it can change their vote and make the motion again?
So Jeff's motion at the last meeting was to review at the next meeting. And so I think my interpretation of that would be that would be go to the rediscussed at the rest of the following meeting. Ready?
I would agree if that was the motion.
I believe, is that how that was how you phrased the last motion?
Correct.
Okay, so I think we let it fly on that one, Nate. Okay? All right, so
Can I amend my motion?
how about you just re-motion, you can get a second, so.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion that effective 11 October masks are optional to be discussed at our next meeting.
Okay, so we have a motion by Andy, do we have a second? I will second for discussion, because it's important. Andy, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I think I said at our last meeting, you know, I try to look at data and listen to people verbally and from emails on both sides of a topic, try to come to my own conclusion as to what would be the best decision. Having said that, I think individual decisions and individual actions are, you know, what we should embrace, both as a community school and to try to come together as a community. I might disagree with folks who have opposing views, but I need to respect their ability to make their own decisions and live their lives how they deem fit. So I guess with that, I believe that it's in the best interest of the health and well-being of the students and our community for individual families to make individual decisions for their families and their students.
Do you have any, Jeffrey?
Question, so under the New Hampshire DHHS matrix, looking at Deerfield or Rockingham, we would still be considered as substantial risk, correct, transmission?
The last time I looked at the matrix, but I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't able to access the map to verify that in the past 2 days.
So I think we're going to find that regardless of Deerfield's own little situation, Rockingham County is probably going to stay at a substantial level for quite some time. I think we're going to find that if you look at the state's data, unless we see a drastic swing, you're going to see that data is going to show the state in a substantial place for quite some time. I struggle with the way the CDC, and although I certainly will, I believe what the CDC has to say, and I am not the one doing the science, so I'm only the one interpreting the science, but I do have a certain frustration that their data does not compensate for the population. 5 cases in Deerfield could very easily be relegated to one household that is now quarantining themselves and waiting out the, we'll call it the COVID experience. And that is where I continually struggle with this. You know, when we set the original kind of method in place, I was looking for a defined beginning and a defined end to masking. I think all along I've been fairly vocal about saying it wasn't a matter of if, but a matter of when. But I'm also kind of cognizant of the fact that we just invited 100-ish thousand people to come running through our community over the last 4 days. So, you know, mathematically, Jeff, I think if you look at Deerfield, I believe it was 4.5 people was the breaking point, more or less, between being a substantial or non-substantial spread. I just would like to, I would like to establish a beginning and an end to when we're going to be having mass on the students and whatnot. But that's my own opinion. Yeah.
I think that DHHS has taken that guesswork out for us, and I think it's important to clarify for people the matrices that there seems to be some confusion about. So there's the New Hampshire DHHS matrix, which we were originally presented with, and they then break it down to county or Deerfield level data. That's the matrix that we initially started with, but didn't pay much regard to for whatever reason. There was a second matrix that we created in-house that, yes, gave us a defined start, defined end time, but it wasn't based on any science or any research or anything like that, but it did look at specific cases. So there's only ever two matrices, the DHHS matrix, which was developed by scientists and researchers, and the one that was created by us.
We'll call that the ZAC matrix.
The ZAC matrix. So as far as the flip-flopping and the confusion on it, absolutely. You know, we're all navigating this and figuring it out, but those were the two matrices, and you know, you can go and look at them back through the meeting minutes. For me, I think that DHHS says when Deerfield's at 4 cases, yeah, masks optional makes sense. And that gives us a defined end and a defined start. We're not there, we're at 5, we're really close, but like you said, we also just invited 100,000+ people into our community. So I don't think now's the time to gamble or to sway from what the scientists and researchers are telling us.
I would agree with everything that's said here, and I would add that to me, it's more about looking at the community, and I think that taking care and looking at, you know, how, there's only 1 case in the school, there's 0 right now, but I would have to say that, come back to the idea that that's only diagnosed, you know, showing the symptoms that line up with that. And in the tales of this, the fair, I don't think I think we need to be careful, and there's more cases out there. I'm almost 100% sure that they're just not, you know, being diagnosed yet. I would be happy to wait 2 more weeks and see what happens after the fair.
And I would agree with that, and all along, really, for me, a lot of it has been trying to look at the data in general, and seeing that there are younger people in general are now the ones that are getting, they're not school age, but the virus that in July, which was the most recent statistic I saw, the demographic of people that were getting sick had been lowered drastically, and that demographic was between the ages of 18 and 49. So in my mind, if the virus is now going, you know, all of the elderly population maybe are vaccinated, I don't have a way to go, now I'm moving down. So it seems like the virus is just moving down to lower ages, because we have an entire group of students everywhere across the country that are unvaccinated. So in my mind, the masking was the simplest and most effective piece of mitigation that we could do in order to try to kind of ward off the extra contagiousness of the Delta variant, and to ensure that we stay in person, because we don't want to like revisit the P word, pivot to remote. So that really is, and so with the fair having just occurred, I would agree to keep the masks in place and take a look at it in 2 weeks.
So we can certainly vote on the motion that's on the floor, or I may try to offer an amendment to the motion. Would be to return to mass optional in the community, the Deerfield community transmission rate is at 4 or below. So that would be the motion. I don't see a second, so I'm going to let that go. Any additional discussion on the original motion presented by Andy?
So I'm looking at the New Hampshire COVID dashboard right now, and while the percent of infections for people ages 10 to say, 59 is double digit, if we look at the hospitalizations of that same demographic groups, it drops to single digits of a percent. And then when we move over to the deaths, which obviously no one wants, they're nearly at zero. Most of the hospitalizations and infections and deaths are between the age ranges of 50 to 80 plus. So we're making decisions based on the population in our building that is between the ages of, say, 0 to 19, which are the first two groups. Hospitalizations for 0 to 9-year-olds is 1%. Hospitalizations for ages 10 to 19 is 0.8%. Deaths for both of those categories are 0. So making decisions to mask kids based on what I've heard previously, which is protecting kids, I don't think that we're protecting kids. Vaccines are widely available, and people can take mitigation strategies and make decisions on their own accord to protect themselves if they are high risk and can't get vaccines. Something else that I wanted to say, over the course of last year, we saw how fully remote impacted our students' health, well-being, social, emotional learning, and all the things that we're trying to embrace and foster here in Deerfield. Over this year, instead of being remote, we're now asking our youngest population to mask up. I don't think that we have or know in advance of these decisions what the long-term effects are going to be of having masks on young children. I can only speak for my child and what I hear from my child. So I believe that for the people that want to take steps to protect themselves and to protect others, leave the decision up to them whether to mask or not. For the people that don't want to mask their children, for whatever their reasons are, we should, I think Gigi and some members of the community have said make decisions, you know, for the best interest of coming together, and I think that allowing people to make decisions for themselves will allow our community to somewhat come back together, given the political decisiveness that we find ourselves in these days.
Any other comments from the board? Yeah, go ahead.
I just feel like it's really important to point out that the masks, as someone in the community mentioned, are not just about your child's decision. I mean, the best analogy I can think of is, if I pee my pants, I'm wearing my pants, it's not gonna get on you. If I'm not wearing pants and I pee on you, it's gonna get on you and make you wet. Simple analogy, but that's the whole purpose of the mask. It's not, if it was just protecting your child, sure, do what you want for your child. But when there's 500 other kids in the building, you gotta think about all of those impacts. It's not a one-way street with the mask.
Andy?
So on the topic of peeing in your pants, if a mask is only gonna, I haven't fact checked this, I haven't done any research on this, but just for the sake of our conversation, if we're talking about peeing in your pants, if the mask does in fact only block or prevent 10% of the droplets from getting past the mask, then how are you protecting me from your pee?
I don't know that this conversation is headed in the direction I want it to. So, I will make one more attempt. Does the board have any interest in creating a defined beginning and a defined end? Because to me, that seems to be the most logical way to resolve a lot of our differences. Yeah.
I would like to propose an amendment that we follow the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services decision-making matrix based on Deerfield level data for the use of mask wearing in the school, which will give us both a defined end date and start date based on science.
So that data would effectively mean that when the case count in the town drops below a certain number, we would go back to masks to be optional.
Correct.
Second to that, so that we can discuss it. So, Jeff's amendment would be that we apply, actually Jeff, I'll do that.
Yeah, it's based on science. We're not trying to play scientists or researchers over here. It's what the governor recommends. It's what Dr. Chan recommends. And it gives us a defined start and end date. If we can keep our cases low in Deerfield, then great. We get down to 4, we can go back to masks optional. I don't want to see my kids in them all year either, but I want to make sure it's safe to do so, and that's when they tell us it's safe to do so.
All right. Any additional discussion regarding the amendment to the Andy's?
I need clarification. Go ahead. Can you say something?
Yeah, so that we adopt the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services decision-making matrix based on Deerfield level transmission data. Correct.
Look at this, okay.
Yep.
Which would effectively mean, that, again, I believe the math was 4-point-something cases or greater would place us in a substantial community spread. So my understanding, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically, without pulling out a calculator, 4 cases or less would make it to an optional situation.
Correct.
Greater than 4 cases, we would give it masks required.
The way I've been reading this is that this sort of universal recommendation over here means because all this is red, this is the blue highlighted line, and this is due to our numbers, whatever they were, over 5.
Can you use the mic, please?
Yeah.
Could you please use the mic? We can't hear anything you're saying.
Okay, I got you. Sorry about that. My apologies. So this is, you can't see this, and this is from last meeting, but it's on, I assume it's in our, I don't know, is it available to people to look at?
I think it's on the website, should be.
And so this is the matrix that has been provided by the DHHS, and the way, if I'm reading it correctly, it says that because the blue highlight is under universal, that means that because there is substantial transmission in Deerfield, according to New Hampshire DHHS, then that's recommending universal precautions, mask wearing in this case. Okay. And so your proposal is that if we drop from the substantial category over to the moderate category?
Correct. That's basically what, so DHHS says if we have moderate transmission, the mask should be optional.
Yeah.
They also say that if there's an outbreak in the school, or if there's a single case in the school.
Zach, you need to use the monitor, or you need to use the.
I can talk louder, don't worry.
Well, please do. Please do then. We're struggling to hear you.
Based on what we're talking about right now, it would also mean that if there was a case inside the building, a single case, you would use a targeted approach to the masking. And then if there was a large outbreak inside the school, but still not necessarily meeting the community spread level, let's say we had 3 cases inside the building, that would be considered a large cluster or a larger outbreak, and then we mask the student body until that went away. Correct.
Can I just clarify something?
Yes.
So, like I was just wondering, so the data comes out pretty much daily when the dashboard is working, correct?
No, it's not updated daily.
It's close.
Okay, I don't look at that closely.
Yeah.
I thought it was weekly, but if you're saying they do it more than, great.
I watch it, it's on
Yeah.
my monitor in the office all day.
So it's usually daily.
My
Okay.
stock portfolio.
On a good week, it's daily. Okay. And, so I, was just wondering, like, do we need to think about, so when we're in a moderate spread for maybe 2 weeks, so when we hit 2 weeks, and we're feeling pretty good that we got that, like, so I'm looking like, if you daily, I'm worried about, like, today, we're at 4, mask optional, tomorrow we're at 5, everybody put your mask, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to figure out, I'm not opposed to having a defined time to take masks off. That makes sense based on science. I'm also just wondering, like, does it make sense to have a period of time where we stay in that range so that we can be sure that we're making the right decision? And that also gives people a chance to be like, okay.
Can you clarify, am I allowed to ask?
I think as we have our conversation here, hopefully we'll answer whatever questions you may have.
Is that okay?
No,
no.
we're going to continue our conversation. I think in our conversation, the answers to your questions will probably follow up.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead, Nate.
Another sort of follow-up to my question there is as I agree with the every day, what's the number and are we wearing masks or not is going to be a nightmare from a teacher's perspective, from a student's, from a family's perspective. And then on top of that, I'm curious, the point I made earlier is to be consistent with how do we even know how accurate these numbers are? I mean, the state is trying to maintain data on all the towns, all the schools in the state. And if we're seeing, and we've heard that students in this age range don't often present with symptoms, you're not going to see, so what does an outbreak look like? How do we define that? Is that according to what the state is knowing, and how much data is the state getting? And I don't know that it's complete, and that's one of my concerns. I have heard that other schools, maybe this is a question for Patty, other schools in our SAU are providing the opportunity to test students when some symptoms, it's easy to say, oh, it's just a cold, but it may not be a cold. And I think that for the most part, a parent needs to go to work, there's all kinds of issues. A parent may say, well, it's just a cold, I'm going to send my student in without actually getting a test. You try to get a test and everything's full in the state. And if you do, if it comes back positive, then your kid's out for 2 weeks, and that's a lot of work and not a lot of convenience there. If we as a school could provide optional testing, parents could opt in if they wanted to. That would be a way for us to provide more information to families. But I have questions about how accurate the station is. So I guess there's 2 questions there, and we can come back to it. But I would be curious if we could do testing in the school.
So in order to be a testing or approved, Bonnie would need to get a doctor to sign off to agree, so you have to be supervised by an MD is my understanding. And I haven't talked to Bonnie about this, I don't know if Kristen has, about how she's feeling about that, but other nurses in our SAU have applied for the certification, received it, and then, like you said, if, it's a lot of time out of work for parents to have to get their kids tested, and you can wait several days for an appointment at this point. So in that case, the nurse can take care of it with parent permission, and if it's not positive, if they're sick, they have to go home, but if they're not symptomatic, they can go back to class. And we're not taking kids that should be home and they're sick. We don't want to bring kids into the school, but if there's an exposure or a question, then the school nurses are testing.
And so until we can have more information on that or made a decision to take that route or we talk to Bonnie, at the moment I feel like that there's too much uncertainty that I would not be in favor of this amendment. I would rather wait until 2 weeks after the fair has sort of played its course, and anything's going to happen.
Just in case, right?
So we have an amendment to the motion on the table. So Jeff's amendment to the motion would be to apply the DHHS data in the matrix to our town using the state's data. So that would mean that if passed today, the students would still be masked because the data from the state still indicates that we're in a high level of community spread. However, if the case count was to go down, masks would become optional. That would mean, and I'm just trying to make sure that everybody's on the same page here, that would mean that if there was a single case inside the school, targeted masking would be applied. That would mean that if there was a larger outbreak in the school, universal masking would be applied, independent of the numbers reaching the greater than, say, 5 community members outside of the building. So, say 3 people inside the school would be the start of an outbreak, it would be universal masking. Well, on that same page. Okay, so any additional discussion regarding, I'm sorry, Andy, go ahead.
So we're hearing uncertainty around the state's data. Part of the decision-making matrix is based on populations of 100,000. The DHHS has provided some guidance for if there's a case in the school and multiple cases. So I'm curious why we're not just going to use data for cases that are in school to make decisions if we're not sure if the state data is accurate, and if the state or DHHS has provided guidance for if something happens in the school.
Hey.
My only last question is how, is this gonna be sort of like a snow day kind of decision, that it's a decision about whether wearing masks is happening at 5 a.m.? Are we asking our superintendent to make that call in making this motion? Is that the next step? And I don't know what the answer is, but seems like where this might go.
Jeffrey?
So do you have any other schools that have adopted this model?
Just got some time, correct?
Pembroke is mandated masks. They haven't defined that, and we've never talked about on a daily basis. We've talked about using either county or community data, but not at what level we would make the switch. The conversation has been the other way, that at what point, if you're not masked, would you go to masked, and it would be in between a board meeting, would it be at the next board meeting? And that would be up to you to define.
So, to me, this can be as simple as the data shows that it is now appropriate based upon the guidelines that we're using, which are the guidelines that came from the state, now we're applying it. And it becomes a one-call type of situation where if there's a change in status, a one call goes out and it says, due to an increase in cases, masks will be required at DCS until a change is made, and then when the data drops down below the threshold, a one call goes out that says, due to an increase in cases, masks will now be optional. But what I've spent 18 months as we've negotiated through all this stuff, and I've lost many a times, but I've continually looked for defining beginnings and defining ends. So nothing I hope I've been consistent. So I certainly support what Jeff's motion is, and I think it is a fair, reasonable compromise, and I think it is an appropriate measure. And so I think I think if we can make something black and white, it becomes a very palatable, although no one will agree with anything we did. But the good news is this will just make everybody mad, so at least we'll be universally offending everybody. But at least it's palatable, and it's black and it's white, and it's a clear defined beginning, and it's a clear defined end. And I'd much rather stand behind the decision of having a clear defined beginning and end to something than having to make these decisions on a bi-weekly basis based upon gut feeling and instinct, which, don't get me wrong, I've done a lot of it in my life, but I'm trying to find something on it. Jeff, I think Jeff may, Andy or TG, I'll let you guys decide to go first.
Patty, I was curious, and you may not know the answer to this, but my understanding is that the entire district of Concord is masked. And I was wondering if they had a kind of, what decision matrix they're using.
I'm not aware of that. They started back up this year, fully masked.
Right, they started breaking at the get-go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Andy?
Can I amend an amendment or?
No, we need to act on the amendment.
Well, I guess the only thing I'd say is I would agree to the proposed amendment if we change the data source from the town to the school, but in its current form, I don't support it.
So I'm going to throw this out there because I think we're going to have one shot at making this different than what it currently is. And I think applying it to the town is not an unreasonable expectation. And so I'm going to try to take a stab at getting something done. So there's no other discussion regarding the amendment. Let's go to the vote on the amendment. All in favor of the motion, I'm sorry, of the amendment to the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is that a yes from GG?
Yep.
Okay, all opposed?
Nay.
Didn't necessarily go how I thought it was. I think it was going to go. All right, so now we are discussing the amended motion. Any additional discussion regarding the amended motion, which would be to apply towns' data to the DHHS manuals. Jeff?
I guess the only concern I have is the whipsaw back and forth, and I highly doubt that we're gonna bounce a day where we bounce, a week where we bounce between 4 cases Monday, 5 cases Tuesday, 4 cases Wednesday. But in that hypothetical situation, I wish I was better with language and words to craft something to isolate us from that whipsaw back and forth. You know, historically what we've seen is stays up, comes down a little bit. Finally, we're back to July levels right now, but who knows? But if somebody could think of a way to buffer Patty and Kristen daily back and forth.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So I wanted to ask you guys, because I'm in my head just trying to figure out, does 2 weeks, like, so if it was, if it is that crazy, I'm just trying to, is 2 weeks?
What's
So-
easier to manage?
Yeah.
2 weeks or a day?
Yeah, exactly. So we review at the board meeting. At the board meeting, we look at the data, we see the data based on DHHS community, and then we set what happens there at that point. And then that holds until the next board meeting.
So that basically is going back to what we did 2 weeks ago. And so for me, right, I prefer, I'm gonna repeat myself, defined beginnings, defined ends. I also want it to be on, right? So to me, I don't wanna say I don't wanna discuss this anymore, but I wanna have a resolution that is as clear and concise as it can be. And so reliving this every single 2 weeks and reliving this every single 2 weeks, I think it's very, and again, I don't think anybody here will agree with us. However, I think it's a much more understandable thing to say, this is what we're doing, and I understand you don't like it and you don't agree with us, but when we see levels hit the building, we're gonna respond to this. If we see certain levels in the town, we're gonna respond this way. If we see an outbreak in the building, we're gonna respond this way. And it has a clear beginning in it. Again, I'm just trying to find that. I want stops and I want starts,
Right.
and that's what I'm with.
But again, it's so hard, Zach, because it's not about what we want. It's about what a virus does. So if a virus decides to jump into school and spread more, it's there. And we have no, we can then apply our mitigating strategies about what it is to take care of that virus. But it's hard, I'm just looking at the manageability. I'm trying to understand the manageability every day. And for kids, wait, what day, wait a minute, wait, I thought masks were optional, but now, no, they're not. The mask, I gotta wear my mask today, because, so that's the thing that I'm worried about. We can, I too would love a black and white thing. I'd love somebody else from somewhere else to come and tell us what the hell to do.
Under the Golden Dome, maybe?
Maybe, but they haven't. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, I understand the desire for that, and I too would love that. But I also am sitting in my, administrative head going, oh man, that seems unmanageable. And I see slight nodding.
I would agree that daily is unmanageable.
Weekly would be more manageable.
Can I just try to lighten the mood by saying if we did option, then people could mask for as long as they wanted, or usually you've got a joke or something to lighten things up. So.
It's been one of those days, buddy. All right.
I appreciate it.
Jeff.
Patty and Kristen and Brian, I mean, do you think that if you look at the numbers on Friday, when the bridge goes out, or before the bridge goes out, if we base our decisions where we are on that Friday, the week moving forward. So my question is though, what if Tuesday we have a meeting? So that's where my concern is, right? The data on Friday is different than the data on Monday, and the data on Monday is different than the data on Tuesday. As much as they would necessarily stop to make daily changes, I just think at the end of the school day, we ask the administration to look at that data and say, here's what we're doing. I think you'll find if we slide into a situation where we have to go back to masks inside the building, it's gonna last for 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 days, however long it lasts. And at the time that we don't have it, it's gonna last for 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 days, depending upon the circumstances. And so I don't think that you're gonna find, now I'm gonna say this, and if this passes, I'm gonna be wrong, because that's what my life is. But I don't think we're gonna find circumstances where we're in, we're out, we're in, we're out, we're in, we're out. It's just not the way this happens. You get it, you have it, you have it for a period of time. So, I mean, to that extent, I don't know that it's gonna be a, today we're on, today tomorrow we're off, today we're on, tomorrow we're off. You know, I mean, if you wanted to say that we're stuck on any time the masking was applied, it was for a minimum of 72 hours, to just. No, I think you're right. I think we're thinking of a hypothetical that doesn't exist, because once masks go on, they're going to, presumably cases will stay up for 7 days or however long COVID lasts. Whereas if masks come off, then yes, it may be a day of respite, the kids can go masks optional, but the following day, if they go back on, correct, it's highly unlikely that so it may be masks off on Monday, back on Tuesday, but I don't think we're going to see a rapid back and forth. I think it won't come out.
For the ability for the community as a whole to understand, at least they can look at the data themselves and go, okay, Deerfield's got 10 cases, I don't want to call yet. They can wait at 7 o'clock that night, they know what's going to occur, and it is what it is. But that's also a method that I think much more comfortably standing on the defend in the next 5 months or 6 months or 7 months of the school year. So hopefully, God willing, we can get beyond all this. All right, any additional discussion regarding the amended motion?
Could you please repeat the amended motion?
So the amended motion would be to apply community data to the DHHS masking matrix, as we've discussed. Did I get that right, Jeff?
It was to adopt the New Hampshire DHHS decision-making matrix for masking based on Deerfield level data.
Okay. So that is the amended motion. We discussed it. Is there any additional discussion regarding the amended motion? Okay. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
All right, so in that case, the plan is staying as it currently is. And if none of the other board members have any other comments, we are going to move on. Andy?
So it failed?
The motion failed.
Can I make a motion for masks to become optional on the 18th of October, when 2 weeks from the Deerfield Fair will have taken place, and then be revisited at our next meeting?
I will second that in an effort to allow for discussion. Andy, go ahead.
Some of the concern we've heard is over the numbers of cases and the accuracy of data. Given that the fair did occur recently, I think it would be good to try to come together, meet in the middle, to afford folks the protection of an additional week and a half of mandatory masks, but then to allow our students on the 18th to return to optional masks.
Okay. Any additional commentary, questions, discussion? Hey.
You mean just for then 2 days and then we would revisit, because our next meeting is the 20th?
Yeah.
So then I would want it to be the 3rd. When our next meeting would be, so skip a meeting.
November 3rd.
So you're saying mask optional from the 18th to the 3rd?
Effectively, it would be masks optional from the 18th to the 5th, because historically what we've done is implemented masks on like a Monday. So we haven't, shifted same day or 2 days from now you have to wear a mask. And we would make a decision at the 3rd as to whether or not to continue that.
Any additional discussion? Nate?
I think that would tie our hands, and I'd rather revisit it on the 20th at our next meeting, rather than making a decision now for something that we can't see 2 weeks from now.
Again, my whole shtick is individual decision-making. So I respect that, but I disagree, and I think that, individually, folks can mask for as long as they want. Folks can decide if they want to wear 2 or 3 masks. Other folks can decide not to wear any at all. So I look at it in that regard.
Any other discussion regarding the current motion? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
I'll say aye. All opposed?
Okay.
All right. Are we all done?
For tonight.
Okay. Moving on. We need to discuss.
Can I ask a question about the continuing, just to make sure?
No action.
No action
Correct.
required.
Yep,
Okay.
starting with number 8.
Okay, perfect.
We are discussing resolution number 8 as submitted by the Mascoma Valley School Board. The resolution is the New Hampshire School Boards Association shall establish and maintain a scholarship fund for student representatives who serve on the district's school board during their high school career. This was not supported by the NHSBA. The board has had an opportunity to review the rationale and the recommendation of the NHSBA. What is the wish of the board on resolution number 8?
I move to reject it.
Moved by Nick, seconded by Jeff. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just a follow-up question. So when I attend on the 16th, I will be not supporting as noted.
All right. You will be the voice of the board at that meeting. Or at least the ballot. Resolution number, I think we have a total of 11, 12, sorry. Resolution number 9 was submitted by the Wilton Line Borough Cooperative School Board on 2nd. Resolution to the NHSBA will advise and confirm policies of paying and segregating dues and payments to the NHSBA in accordance with RSA 15.5. Recommendation from the NHSBA is that it is not an appropriate resolution, and resolutions are intended to guide the NHSBA's positions relative to legislative advocacy. What is the wish of the board?
Reject.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Moved by Jeff, seconded by Nate. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 10. Submitted by the Keeneland School Board on July 8th. The NHSBA supports diversity, equity, and inclusion in all aspects in our schools. Is committed to the concept of free and open dialogue around such concepts as racism and sexism, a vital component of education, and opposes any actions which limit this free exchange of ideas. The NHSBA recommendation is to support this resolution. What is the wish of our board?
Support.
Second.
We have a motion by Jeff, seconded by Nate. All in favor? Discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Any discussion?
I think this is a hugely important idea, and I really support, and I think it's amazing. I mean, the language that goes on to why the NHSBA supported this And the idea that our legislature in our state and politicians love to talk about local control, and yet they take it away when it becomes convenient and don't allow school boards and or schools to make decisions about curriculum and student engagement, I think is difficult. And so therefore I support this.
Well said. Any additional discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that brings us to number 11, submitted by the Merrimack Valley School Board on July 9th. The resolution is that the New Hampshire School Boards Association calls upon the New Hampshire legislature to fund a post-graduation transition program for each school district to provide a continuum of guidance, graduate transition from high school, vocation, college, and career. And the NHSBA has recommended that we not support it. They believe that the program has merit, but resolutions for the NHSBA relative to school funding should primarily be focused on full adequacy aid funding, special education funding, and full vocational aid funding. What is the wish of the board?
I like the idea, but it's just like such a, trying to eat the whole elephant at once, so I would vote to reject.
Do we have a second? All right. Motion by Jeff, seconded by Nate. Any additional discussion? All in favor? Aye. And that brings us to number 12. This is submitted by the Hanover and Dresden School Boards on July 9th. The resolution is whereas the NHSBA supports equity and inclusion in all aspects of education. That would be continuing resolution number 5. And whereas the NHSBA opposes any branch of the New Hampshire government adopting or supporting curriculum standards that usurp states' rights and de-emphasize and limit local control of curriculum and local school board oversight. Whereas the NHSBA supports state and federal legislation and affirms the responsibility for education resides with the states, which have delegated to local school boards the power and authority to develop policies, establish priorities, and provide accountability to direct the operation of the schools, including the school system's mission and goals, organization, budget, program, curriculum, and services, all essential to the daily operation of schools, consistent with the laws and regulations. Be it resolved that the NHSBA oppose legislation such as, but not limited to, HB 544 or HB 2 of 2021, containing language that promotes an unconstitutional restriction on free speech that could thereby deny New Hampshire public school students of all races and genders the opportunity to think critically, openly, and inclusively about subjects such as racism, systemic racism, and sexism. The NHSBA recommends not support it. The NHSBA Board of Directors believes that the proposed resolution is too narrowly focused on a single bill, rather than a broad-based policy statement. Further, the NHSBA Board of Directors believes that its support of the Keene Resolution number 10 encompasses this proposal. What is the wish of the board?
Reject.
Second. We have a motion to reject and a second. Any discussion made?
I support the ideas in here, but I agree that the NHSBA is about broader efforts, not just targeting one single bill.
Additional discussion?
It seems that the Keene resolution covers it.
All right. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So to be clear, it's a do not support.
Do not support.
Thank you.
All right. So that takes care of resolutions. We dealt with transportation. Before we move on, anything else transportation related? Going once, twice? Nope. Nate, board communications, why don't you go ahead?
I thought it was appropriate for conversation here among the board about sort of establishing a protocol. We alluded to the slew of emails that we received in the last few weeks, and they were all well-founded and well-based, and we received practically just as many from one side as from the other. Many of them were addressed to all of us, and so I think I speak for the board in saying that we all read all of them, but can we agree on some sort of protocol? Should I be replying to every one of these, even when they are addressed to everybody, even when getting very similar language? I was leaning towards not replying to every single one of them, but I would like to, as a board, establish what maybe protocol should be, your expectations. Among that, I also have questions maybe for the second half of this conversation about sort of other means of communication, such as Facebook, other sorts of tools that are out there, and I think maybe it's for a later conversation, but I wanted to throw that idea out there and see if other people had thoughts about any of that.
Good job. I think that, taking it one step back, I think that as we should come up with a standard way so that people know they're not going into a void. But I also want that ability to communicate. You know, I'm not going to respond to every email, but I'm going to, if somebody emails me and I feel it pertains to me, like I responded to probably 16 emails last week, you know, or the week before. And I want to be able to explain myself, you know, never speaking for the board, but I always want to be able to speak for myself and explain to anybody, you know, whether, you know, they support me or don't, why I made the decisions I made. I think that that's really important. We shouldn't censor ourselves in that sense.
Yeah, and actually, I was gonna bring up, to have this under informational item, so appreciated under H. And I'm thinking that it's challenging we all get emails, and our current protocol has been that we don't answer them. We address them at our meetings, but you and I have talked, and you have mentioned that you get back to people, just kind of reminding folks that our current protocol is to address them at meetings. But I can also understand how people might feel like we're not being responsive enough to them. Because sometimes if they email us like tomorrow, then we won't address that email until we have our next meeting on the 20th. So I was just trying to figure out a way. I don't necessarily know that I have an idea, and I also know it can be tricky, because if we like respond all so that we all kind of know what the other person says, we have to be careful that somebody else doesn't jump on and respond, and all of a sudden we have a meeting going on in email.
That is, the biggest concern with it obviously is we need to make sure we don't run into inadvertently starting a meeting, correct, Patty?
Yeah, it's a little bit more than a meeting, though. It's conducting board business outside of the meeting. So there can be correspondence about any business that should be brought before the public body. And I think the distinction here that I'm hearing with Jeff and Gigi is that if you have a constituent that says, you, Jeff Kelly, not Deerfield School Board, but you, Jeff Kelly, why did you do that? And you wanting the ability to say, I, Jeff Kelly, did it because. And I think there is a difference, and I think as long as you say, you know, you asked me a personal question, so I'm going to answer you, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board.
And I think maybe it's better for the community to stand there. And I think maybe an appropriate approach to find some compromise, although I'm failing this tonight. But maybe an appropriate approach to find some compromise. Emails that are directed at the board as a whole, 5 members, I think it should be the board has received your email, thank you, we'll discuss it at our next meeting. I think if an individual wants to ask a question of a board member, that email should be directed specifically to a board member. And whether that is just in response, if you have questions for individual board members, please direct them to those individual members. Maybe that is just an easy way to remedy that.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. You shouldn't be stifled, and you have a right to speak just as much as anyone else does. And the important distinction is just not to conduct business over email and not to have conversations with the public that other members of the public can't hear and be part of.
So is that a satisfactory response or satisfactory solution would be emails sent to the board as a whole, or responding to as thank you for your summarize, but thank you for your email, the board will review the next meeting.
By you?
Yes.
Being the chair,
Yeah.
okay. So you would reply, so if it's a group email to all 5 of us, you will reply and you'll say, thank you, we will address this at our next meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
But if you wish to ask questions of individual board members, please email them independently. Is everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Daddy?
I think so.
We're all good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second half?
Second, I thought, I didn't know there was halves, I'm sorry.
Second half is the whole enigma of Facebook.
Yeah, I think I kind of have a clarifying question. So just to be clear, so if somebody emails the entire board about a topic, I can't reply to them, just that individual person?
I received an email that's submitted to the entire board, and I reply with things. We discuss at the next meeting.
Okay.
If you have questions for individual board members, please direct them to us. That way we keep ourselves clear of we just start being quiet on it. Not going down that road.
And you're talking about an accidental reply all, and then somebody else accidentally replied all.
That is the start of it, but it's also the emails directly from the entire board. I think it does create the board discussing. We inadvertently start discussing business that should have been brought before the entire board.
Okay.
So.
It might help in the statute, maybe that's something I can bring and share if you want further discussion at the next meeting, but it actually does talk about, you know, I think when social media and email came to be, then something needed to be put in place to avoid this, and it goes on to clarify you can't even take straw polls. So what you kind of alluded to is like, I can't call Gigi and say, hey Gigi, what do you think? Well, I only talked to one. So now I'm gonna talk to you because I only talk to this one person at a time. You can't do that either. So you can't take anything offline or just have conversations between one or two people. It's not just because it's not a quorum. It's because you're conducting board business outside of a meeting.
And then regarding Facebook, the best 6 hours of my life was down. But, go ahead.
There was the joke I was waiting for.
The whole, just the whole thing of Facebook, and I, as sort of the communication person, and as the board, I represent, you know, and I communicate the board's, you know, notes and all that stuff. I sort of used Facebook for a little bit because it reached more people, it was easy to do. But I'm finding, having done this for a couple of years, that it seems to, along with everything in social media, it creates this kind of sense of like immediacy, like now, here it is, what's the newest stuff, right? And that is inherently not how a school board works. We work so slowly, as many people I'm sure have noticed, that it's inconsistent, I think, as a messaging tool. And I think it maybe leads to sort of conversations in the sense that we can just sort of call an emergency meeting to sort of fix something. I suppose we could, but we don't usually call emergency meeting. It's usually a 2-week, that's just how things work.
You guys want to meet every other day.
Right, why don't we should do this? We should just meet every other day. And so I guess my question is more, I feel like there's maybe I've created a presence on Facebook, and I think maybe I'm rethinking that, and I should sort of slow it down a little bit and post it. I would like to post the notes, post the agenda like they do, but I may be moving away from Facebook, and I guess that's more of a question to everybody. Is that okay if the school board stuff does not have much on Facebook?
And when Barrett came and did, he's been going to different boards and doing some training because as board members turnover, you know, things need to be refreshed. And one of his comments to Pembroke when people were asking about social media, his reply was just don't do it, period. So it can lead to trouble very quickly, but using it as a tool, like you said, to distribute the information that is going out to anyone at any time, like an agenda or minutes or documents that have been made public. And that's where I think boards are tending to, you know, there's so many places you can get information now, and we try to hit everybody's preferred method, but it really should be just about the official documents. It shouldn't be about sharing information that wasn't in the record or discussed or published officially.
I think most importantly, it's important for everybody to know that the board members sitting up here, I think, as a whole, don't use Facebook. Because I'll speak for myself, I think it's the bane of human existence, and I don't think anything positive has ever come from it. That's my own opinion. I think other board members may have similar opinions. So if you want to communicate with the board, send an email or pick up the phone and call us. But screaming on Facebook is probably not a means to have an honest and open discussion with a board or a board member. All right. Thank you. I'm done my rant.
Well said.
Okay, let's see, reports, the PTO, where's the PTO? Hello, PTO.
Hi, is here okay?
You're fine.
So we've been really, really busy, actually. Since the last time I spoke, we had our mum sale out front by the street. It was fantastic, totally sold out, lots of people home to leave. We have kids out there doing that for the cars to leave. So that was a huge success, so thanks everyone that came out and bought some mums. Our next thing coming up is this Saturday, it's our townwide yard sale. And again, we'll be up by the street with our donations. I released the donations this week. And that's
Hold on 1 second, I think.
Sorry, people can't hear. Everyone has to be sorry.
Hold it for you.
Is that better? Okay, so at our yard sale site, we're taking donations. So we'll be selling that up by the street on Saturday. We're gonna have some treats and some drinks and lots of great stuff for sale, so everyone should stop by. We're also doing a couple of really, really fun things this month. I love fall. We're doing the Scarecrow Contest again. So all families in the community and also the classrooms can create their most creative scarecrow or their funniest, scariest, anything family friendly. And we're going to have the scarecrows out front again for the kids to judge. That's always a great time. I hear the kids really love that. And also new this year, we're doing a pet photo contest. I've already seen a really cute pug you might know.
That was actually me. I drew a tail.
So I think that'll be really, really fun. We're looking forward to seeing all the pets dressed up in their best Halloween costumes, and we'll be voting on that, and the winner will get a Deerfield Pet and Feed gift card. And the other thing is we'll have our traditional fundraiser coming up for the fall. It's a catalog, so that will be going out towards the end of October.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay, Nate, has the executive board met?
I don't think so.
Not since your last meeting, I don't believe.
Okay, and principal.
I'm with you.
With
2 E's.
All right.
Do you want me to use the microphone?
Yes.
Want me to? I personally love a microphone. Be here all night. I'll give you my notes from now on.
I will say the last time you had one, we could move across town.
Thought you were gonna stand right in the middle.
Oh, so should I just stand? Give my, oh, there we go. That's a good idea. You're so smart.
That was Jeff's idea.
Oh, Jeff, you're so smart. Do you hear them? He's so smart. Good ready. All right, so I have just 4 pages tonight, folks. It's fine, 4 pages, big font. This covers September 16th to October 6th. It was a long break from you. We've missed you terribly. So glad we're back together. Our soccer, volleyball, and cross-country teams are doing very well. They are, we unfortunately had a couple cancellations, but they're going to be thank you, scheduled. My brain, Lisa, you're there for me too? Okay, thank you. I would like to make sure that I thank Nurse Heisey. She set up a staff flu clinic last Friday in September 17th. Several staff members took advantage of that. Last time I was here, I mentioned that Chris Motika would be here from the SAU to do some work with our middle school teachers. 6th grade happened to be on a field trip, which we're very happy about for them that particular day, but Chris did come to meet with 7th grade as well as 8th grade. He will be meeting every single month with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. This month, the focus of his meeting this month was to talk about just competency-based education, the basics and why we're doing it. He did a great job with the information. He gave every single month he'll have a reading for the staff, including administration. Brian, Lisa, and I also attended.
And then there's always an outcome that he is expecting for the next time we get together. So for the month of September, we read Desmond's count, discussed it, and then the next meeting, it is expected that middle school teachers will bring 2 or 3 larger assessments, like a project or a classwork or a test, that they want to improve or revise. And then at the next, in the October meeting, we'll be talking about an assessment rubric that he has used all over the district with hundreds of teachers and hundreds of projects. So they will be assessing their work using the rubric and trying to improve a piece of work or several pieces of work that they have done. And then we'll continue every single month. I'll give you an update as to what his topic is, what the outcome is, and what the focus is. On Thursday, September 3rd, our 5th graders got to go on a field trip to Newcastle Common. We have entered the after the fair period of time. So the students did a wonderful job with their projects. Nurse Heisey was there, several staff members were in the schoolhouse, and reported that the kids were very excited to come and show their parents all of their hard-earned work, hard work, so they were very excited for that. As you know, Friday there's no school, it's a teacher workshop day. Mr. Trong will be presenting a workshop on multicultural education, social justice education, and culturally responsive pedagogy on Friday. We will be rotating, there'll be 3 different rotations. Mr. Trong is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Chairperson for the New Hampshire Music Educators Association. So that's his official title for the state of New Hampshire. And he will be working with Brooke Petroselli, who will be doing a technology twist along with the topic that he is covering. So that will be one rotation that the teachers will go to. The other rotations will include a meeting with the architect, which I think Jeff will probably have an update on. And the architects, they sent out a survey. The staff is completing, I reminded them again today. I think we have 10 responses so far, and so I reminded them that it will be important to have some data for the architects to work with. So encourage them to at least go on and fill out the things of, it's a pretty lengthy survey if you've seen it and done it. So anyway, so that's another rotation, as well as a pod clean out. So I know there's not a lot of professional, that doesn't sound very professional development-y, but it's work that needs to be done in time that we have to do it. So we've already been able to release one of the pods that has been being paid for by grant money. So that got picked up last week. We're hoping to empty another complete pod on Friday, and really hoping to be able to get rid of the 3rd pod by the end of the month. So stay tuned. And then the 3rd rotation for staff will be, they'll be meeting as teams with the architect, and then if they're not meeting with the architect, working on taking out the stuff from the pods that they need and don't need, and then also having some team time if there is time. The 3rd rotation will be on social studies. Every grade level team will work together on firming up their essential questions. That's the next level that our curriculum committee wanted the staff to work on. Just as an update, there have been some fundraising efforts for our 8th grade class for their end of year trips. Our 8th grade team has been talking about looking ahead in the spring and whether the New York trip can happen. I know that it's been very disappointing that it has not been able to happen. Heather Swanson has been in touch with the guy, the group that does the tour, and there's so many restrictions in place right now in New York. Like, you can't go eat in a restaurant without a vaccine card or with a parent that has a vaccine card. Everything is masked right now. Usually he has a couple, like 40 or so tours at this point booked, and I think he said he had 4. So we're really looking hard at whether we're going to do that trip or not, and brainstorming other really fun things that we could do with our 8th grade class this year. So Our 8th grade parents are working really hard to get some fundraising done. They have, so far, they have been able to pull together some candygrams for the month of October. They have got concessions of the trunk or treat and the haunted stables. They will be raffling off a Thanksgiving dinner in the month of November. They are taking their fundraising at the turkey trot, and they did a medal drive recently as well. As you know, administration is meeting with teams on May days, which this month, this period of time fell on Wednesday the 22nd and Thursday the 30th. These particular weeks, we were able to meet with 2nd grade, 4th grade, 6th grade, 8th grade. We also met with our IAs for art and library technology, and we were able to squeeze in a meeting with preschool. 2nd grade, our 2nd grade team is working on community. They are working on their friendship unit, talking about hopes and dreams, really developing family and class as a family, doing a lot of social emotional learning in their classrooms. Finished up their Deerfield Fair projects. Their Pilgrim unit is coming up, which they last year, usually they go to the plantation, and last year they pivoted out to the outdoor classrooms and really made a great day of it. So they're working right now on how characters feel and act in a story, working on being reflective thinkers. So 2nd grade is working really hard. 4th grade is just finishing up with their mid-mod assessments in math. They've got their book groups going. Their WIN time is up and running. WIN stands for What I Need. They're working on the rocks and minerals in science and Abenaki Indians in social studies, mapping the state of New Hampshire. I don't know what I wrote there. So 6th grade, if you've ever had a 6th grader and you know the song Grapes, is a big song that they sing for the social studies unit that they study, and this year they tied in the grapes of Deerfield. So if you have a 6th grader, you know what this song is. But a lot of the kids actually knew the tune because we had sung it at an all-school meeting, which we have not been able to bring back yet this year. We're really hopeful towards the springtime that maybe we can do that. The 6th grade has an awesome section that they developed this year called the 6th grade hub. A couple weeks ago it was in the bridge, and it's a spot where birthdays are highlighted and events that are happening. There's a big calendar up, there's expectations on the wall. So they've done a very nice job up there. They also went on a field trip to Copple House and went on a wagon ride focusing on farming and industry and the corn maze, and came home with beautiful pumpkins, every single student. 8th grade has finished their magnet interviews, and they have started their magnet work. So kids are placed in their magnets, and I think that this is something that will continue for years to come. They spent the entire month of September getting to know the kids, and it was very useful time spent. In social studies, they're working on the battles of World War I, Reconstruction, and European geography, as well as the Black Plague. But they love teaching it, and the kids love learning about it. In art, if you went to the Deerfield Fair, you saw the hopes and dreams. The art teachers did a workshop this summer, and that was one of the big projects that the teacher had done, and they incorporated it into the Deerfield Fair. They were hanging all over. They were beautiful. Even the staff did a hope and dream and added it to one of the hoops. We thank our teachers, Miss Dickey and Mrs. Chase. They went over to the Deerfield Fair and set up the projects like they usually do. And it was another great showing for our kids. Preschool has changed their day a little bit. They actually took out snack, which was something that was a big decision that they had made. And in place of that, are able to get the kids outside every single day. So before they were squeezing that little bit in, they figured 2.5 hours. If a kid is really hungry, they'll give them a snack, but by removing that, it just changed their whole day. So I just wanted to update you on a couple of things like that. They have incorporated a leader of the day. So that student, that 3-year-old or 4-year-old comes into class, they're the leader of the day. They get to be the helper for the day and the line leader. Another big thing that they did is they changed their choice boards. So when kids come into the classroom, they are able to go to any center they want to participate. If they want to go to the kitchen, they can go to the kitchen. If they want to go play with the blocks, they can go play with the blocks. And they've been very happy with that update to their schedule. Prior to that, last year there was only 3 kids allowed at the block center. And so they'd be crying, tears, and my best friend is there. So they've taken that away, and they have found that most of the troubles that they had just gone away. And it's been a great change for them. So they're really happy about that. And our library and technology, Beth took a look at some data, and circulation is up 38% than it was from 2019. Kids are able to go in and exchange whenever they want. She has set up a system so that they are able to do that. Middle schoolers have been using the library extensively. They had a book tasting last week for 8th grade. 8th grade loved participating in that. She has 6th graders rotating through the library as well, so they can have a library time, as well as she's brought in the preschoolers this year to the library, and is still going down for a 3-year-old story time. So a lot of good things going on, and Brooke is working with the kids on a floor planner. She's incorporated some robotics for the classes, really hoping that in October she can bring in some of the younger grades to work on digital citizenship and keyboarding, and then with a focus on coding in the month of December. So that is what's going on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for Principal Liddy? Hey.
Does it count? Sounds interesting. Would you mind just sending me the link or something like that? You said that Chris Matika was reading. Is that?
Hey, you turn it up a little bit?
He would like to take a look at the reading that Chris Motika gave to the group, and I'd be happy to send that to you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Let's see. Has the CRB met?
Meeting coming up.
Okay, so next meeting we should have an update?
Yes.
Excellent. Mr. Kelly. High school, building expansion committee.
So we should move this to the top of the agenda before masks so that we can actually talk to the whole community about it. Just like dangle it out there, please. So right now LBA, just to get you guys up to speed, they're in the data collection stage. Had a quick call with them today with Patty and Kristen, and they're desperately searching for feedback from the teachers, the community, because anyone can just, like we've said before, just draw 4 boxes, here's what you need, classrooms, bathrooms, great, big bang, done. So the time they're spending right now is to kind of get to know the spirit and ethos of Deerfield and how we function. They've got our plans all digitized. They showed us the plans that they've got drawn up of the existing structure. And now it's, okay, we're ready to take that next step, but first we really need to understand you guys. How do your teachers want to teach? How do you want your teachers to teach? And all of those things. Another question you're worried about, Zach, is where we're at schedule. Everything's still looking good. Major milestones coming up, as Ms. Withy said, October 8th will be the teacher interviews. A week later following that, there's going to be a visioning session where basically they take all the feedback that they've gotten from the teachers, they sit down with school leadership. They're going to send us some suggestions on who should be there, but it'll be, Patty, Kristen, Brian, Lisa, members of the committee. So we'll figure that out, but that's October 15th. It looks like the good news is our building's in great shape. The mechanical systems have been upgraded. It's really just a size issue. So, we all kind of knew we weren't going to be knocking down the school and building a new one. But, we talked today about what is going to be the best fit for us. And it looks like, kind of a wing or addition to what we have here. They briefly brought up a separate, 6th through 8th middle school. But we let them know that that's something that we've talked about before and don't want to go in that direction due to, as Kristen put it so quickly, extra cafeteria, extra lunches, extra office staff. So it's expensive.
lose your efficiency.
Yeah, so that's where we are. We are targeting an 11-3 meeting with the community, similar to what we did with the high school committee, where the first hour of our meeting is an opportunity for the town to come and talk to us about any ideas they have for, we're going to be building this thing, how can we incorporate it to make it better for the community? If you could reach out to the groups that you've been liaisoning with for that November 3rd, that would be excellent. And then depending on the turnout from that, we may try and do a virtual one. Hopefully we have better luck than the high school committee did, but that would be the week following on November 10th. Once they've collected all that information, that's when they hop on their computer and start drawing up what we need.
Should we, does it make sense to have Nate?
I know what you're gonna say.
Put it on Facebook? Put it on Facebook.
Yes, but what we want to do is be able to, they're still kind of doing their study and assessment of what our actual deficiencies are. So what we talked about today was, let's make sure that when we go out to the town and say, hey, we need to build an addition, we're woefully undersized, here are the bullet points why. So it's not just, oh, they want to spend more money, raise taxes, and build an unnecessary school. I want to have that information up front when we do go to social media, be able to present that at the same time.
Okay. Hey. There's a month between now, it sounds like, in that meeting you're talking about, or when they're hoping the committee will come in, you said early November?
Yep.
Over that time, there's going to be a series of committees and groups in town meeting. Like, let's take, for instance, the Deerfield Women's Club meets, I believe, once a month, right? And the architects have been through this before, but I mean, going to those meetings and going to them, would we get, with the bullet points off and stuff, the timing is an issue, but rather than having everybody come to the school, asking issues, maybe not, getting online was something that may be a difficult hurdle for some people in the community. Is that something that going to them and going to their meetings has crossed, or would that fit in your schedule?
I mean, it would be expensive to have the architects do it just because it's outside of their scope, so it would be additional cost. I think that what we could probably do is, committee members could act as liaisons on behalf of the architects, because really all they're trying to do is collect information in a very standardized way. Here's the form. So I think that we could probably go out, meet with those groups, talk, share the story on behalf of the architects, and get away to, we've got the online surveys that people could just hop onto, we can take notes. The problem and challenge is time and also figuring out when all those groups meet.
I had a question, Jeff. That November meeting, is that meeting, do you get input from the community?
Correct.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Jay and Julie from La Valley Grandsinger will be here, basically kind of lead, similar to the presentation that you saw, right? Lead that discussion and then hopefully solicit feedback from the community. So going to your point, yes, it's just a question of how many groups are out there, who's the contact person, when do they meet, and is it physically possible for us to get people there?
Would it help to have more boards
Please.
You want me to, I can go through some of it?
Yes, I would love that. I am so buried in normal life. I could really use help.
So I would need the bullet list when that comes out. How soon will that be?
I think realistically, so I'll reach out to them and ask. I don't want to speak for them.
Yeah.
My guess would be another week and a half.
Okay.
But
and then I would need to know what kind of information they're looking for.
Yep.
And then link to a survey or something like that. I can get on that.
Follow up to that survey, I think one time we held out for families, I want to say.
it was given out at the fair. We had at the information Yeah, I don't think we got that with the families, but at the fair we had, a little forms, Barbara Cook was handing out.
I have to see. Doesn't mean it's not there.
One other thing is, sorry, last thing, that'll be done. Patty is going to work with the SAU tech person and the DCS tech person to get that content and kind of updates to a website very specific to this. So we'll have, you know, the Deerfield School website, and then we'll have a page dedicated to this project. So, we'll be appreciating that help. Thank you.
Any other questions for Jeffrey? All right, and Nate, on the high school options?
We're working.
That's about all we can say about it right now.
All I can say.
Okay, that's gonna bring us to, we didn't have any informational items, is that correct, Patty?
Correct.
All right, so this will be another opportunity for the public to speak, although some of the public is left, but if any members of the public care to provide comments, please follow the same format come before, if you would.
Hi, Samantha Logan from Raymond Road. I noticed that during the mass discussion, a lot of it kind of fell around needing a time frame. I guess that was kind of the whole thing the matrix was designed for, is that we had a time frame on when things would kind of fall into place and when they wouldn't. I'm not sure why that's not being revisited as to the numbers in Deerfield. That seemed to be something that would have worked. I just think that's a good solution that should kind of be put in place. I noticed that during tonight's meeting, I had a hard time understanding some of you, and I understand the frustration that my son has being in third grade. He has a really hard time with reading and writing and, you know, the speech. He's in IEP for that. And the frustration that he must have not being able to see what some of you guys are saying in order to learn, I now understand why he is behind even further this year than he was. He was doing really well in catching up, and now he's kind of fallen back in that aspect. I guess that's kind of frustrating, and I understand that. The other concern that I have is you guys talk about wanting to leave the masks in place because of the fair, which I can understand the numbers are kind of scary. They could jump a little bit with the fair. I mean, that's a what if. But what happens when Thanksgiving comes around and Christmas? Are we gonna be put in the same situation where it's gonna go on for months and the kids are never gonna get that opportunity to, you know, have their body, their choice, what they think? I think that's really all I had to say, was just kind of listening to you guys. That's kind of my feedback. Again, I think it should be a choice, and I agree with the matrix that you would come up with, I believe it was, versus the DHS one. That's all. Thank you.
Any additional comments?
Are you allowed to, like, get clarification or nothing? Because I already talked, am I not allowed to come up?
You're more than welcome to provide comments to the board again, but they're one way, the comments to us. If there's specific questions, you can always email individual board members.
Okay. So I think, I just want to clarify, my husband had to go put the kids to bed. I just want to clarify that that petition is for a special meeting, which legally by law, you do have to give us within 30 days, where the community can vote as a whole what we want to do, whether it's optional or not. We as a whole, no matter, you know, all of us together can vote, and that's what that petition is for. So I don't know what the other petition was for that you received, but I just wanted to clarify.
That I have to have legal review, and there's a more discussion over it.
Yes, so I'm not leaving until it's signed now.
I'm not signing that until legal reviews it.
Legally, you have to, you're the board. This is happening all across the United States.
Yes, it sure
And
is.
you know, because.
I do know.
Absolutely, yes. So you have to
Are you
sign
just-
that,
are
because
you
I'm
just-
presenting this petition.
You're just asking us to acknowledge that you
That you
handed it
received
to us.
it. And it says right on there, receive this date,
That's all it says, just receive this date, your review.
Yeah, if you want to sign it.
Yeah, just letting you know that you gave it to us, right? Yeah,
I just wanted to clarify.
yeah, let me look at it.
Great.
Any additional comments?
I don't have the exact time, I'm gonna use this right now, okay?
Yep, 8:25 PM. Wednesday, October 6th.
All right, let's see, and, oh,
I just have one quick comment. I think it would be helpful, this room, the acoustics have never been great in here, way back since it was built. It is really hard to hear. I think it would be helpful if you guys all mic'd up or shared a mic for every two, but it's hard to hear. I guess I have old ears, but, you know.
I would have never said that.
We are working on, you know, learning how to communicate well as a community, and that means listening and respecting each other, but it just was kind of hard to hear. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. All right, any additional comments? So, per NHRSA 9183-2, small letters K, excuse me. Let's see, L and B, I will look in for a motion to moved by Andy, seconded by Gigi, by roll call. Jeff?
Yeah.
Gigi?
Yes.
Yes, folks, it is 8:26, we are non-public, thank you all for attending, you are welcome to come back in after we are done.